Good morning and welcome to First Parish Church in Billerica. We are a welcoming congregation, and whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, we welcome you here this morning. This morning we have the fantastic Kellie Kinsman here with us this morning. She joins us from California. She is a friend of our Reverend Steve Wilson, a member or a student of the Starr King School for the Ministry in her third year. She currently lives in Southern California where she helps care for her aging stepfather, and she has been engaged in anti-oppression work for decades, most frequently within the LGBTQ plus community. So we're really thrilled to have her with us today.
I read these words by Christine Robinson while Teresa lights our chalice, and I understand we can only light one candle this week. Is that right?
And as long as it's not another smoke detector.
Yeah, it's been moved. We're good. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. How about some opening words? Thank you for having me here today. I'm really glad to see your faces. Today we're honoring the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, his legacy of service, and his dream of creating beloved community. For clarity, King's birthday is January 15th, and the federal holiday celebrating him will be on January 20th. I hope that getting a head start will be uplifting when we most need hope and a positive path. We know what happens on January 20th. This is a brief biography from the Encyclopedia Britannica online. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. He died on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. He was a Baptist minister and social activist who led the civil rights movement in the United States from the mid-50s until his death by assassination in 1968. His leadership was fundamental to that movement's success in ending the legal segregation of African Americans in the South and other parts of the United States. King rose to national prominence as head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which promoted nonviolent tactics such as the massive March on Washington in 1963 to achieve civil rights. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. That's a brief bio. Martin Luther King Jr. is probably the most well-known civil rights activist of our time. Some of us might be familiar with the Montgomery bus boycott in 1956, the Birmingham campaign in 1963, Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama in 1965, or the Memphis sanitation workers strike in 1968. All of these actions were carried out as peaceful protests, nonviolent direct actions. All of these actions ended in violence. Today is about legacy and a dream. Today is about how we, as Unitarian Universalists, continue a legacy of service in making the world a better place and embody the dream of beloved community, a term we'll talk about today. beautiful. Thank you. I've asked Teresa to do our reading today.
Do you want to say anything else about it?
This is not meant to be a day of comfort for us, so I found this reading to be very important. It's from a letter, Martin Luther King's 1963 letter from a Birmingham jail. And when I read it over the last couple of months, I was broken for days.
We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well timed in the view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward gaining political independence, but we still creep at horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, and even kill your black brothers and sisters, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to the amusement park that has been advertised on television, and you see her tears welling up in her eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and see ominous clouds of inferiority beginning to form in her little mental sky, and see her beginning to distort her personality by developing an unconscious bitterness toward white people. When you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son who is asking, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? When you take a cross-country drive and find it necessary to sleep night after night in the uncomfortable corners of your automobile because no motel will accept you. When you are humiliated day in and day out by nagging signs reading white and colored. When your first name becomes nigger, your middle name becomes boy, however old you are. Your last name becomes John, and your wife and mother are never given the respected title of Mrs. When you are harried day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at tiptoe stance, never quite knowing what to expect next, and are plagued with inner fears and outer resentments, when you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over and men are no longer willing to be plunged into the abyss of despair. I hope, sirs, that you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience. You express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. This is certainly a legitimate concern. Since we so diligently urge people to obey the Supreme Court's decision of 1954, outlawing segregation in public schools. At first glance, it might seem rather paradoxical for us to consciously break laws. One may well ask, how can you advocate breaking some laws and obeying others? The answer lies in the fact that there are two types of laws, just and unjust. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. One has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. I would agree with St. Augustine that an unjust law is no law at all.
Those are hard words. I remember my first grade teacher. She was tall and strong and pretty and nurtured my young feminist spirit. She was one of the first people to believe in me. She spoke to me in adult words that I had to look up when I got home. She let me teach other first graders to read. She would come to my house for dinner before PTA meetings. One of those dinners was on my birthday, and she brought me a present, swearing me to secrecy. I loved her. I learned some very colorful words one day when one of my classmates called her all kinds of names. I learned the N-word. I learned the effing N-word. And I had to ask my mother what they meant. I also learned on that day that my teacher was Black. I didn't know. I didn't know why it mattered. I loved her, and my lessons had begun. My family wasn't politically active or even aware. At least they never talked about politics or social justice or civil rights in front of me. I don't think they had time to care. I'm sure it was pleasantly sheltering then, and I'm not judging them. I was 10 years old when Martin Luther King was assassinated in the 4th grade. I remember only the somber tone of the day. In the following weeks, I overheard conversations about riots, racial discrimination, and my babysitter spoke of her fear of violence breaking out at her school and of joining in the protests and demonstrations. I don't know what actions she took, but I recall her passion about Martin Luther King's work and her grief over his assassination. I didn't really understand. Growing awareness was all I had. Little did I know that my life was about to become fighting injustices, beginning with women's rights and the rights of the LGBTQ people to even exist. Remember, I'm 10. But this is not about me. I share my story here so that you too might call to mind your first awareness of injustices, your early awakening to some edge of morality occurring around you, to something that just wasn't right. We are all our own process. We each begin in our own unique moment in time, awakening thought, birthing our own values based on our experiences. There is no perfect way to begin. There is no perfect moment to begin. We arrive at this work when we see it. Francis David, a long ago Unitarian ancestor, is credited with these words: "We need not think alike to love alike." And I think that's perfect today. I want all of us to know that we are a process, that we have choices to make, values to learn. We all have work to do, and there is always work to do, and there is always more work to do. The goal of my work has become creating beloved community. This is my unexpected passion. What is the goal of your work and learning? What drives you? What are your passions? Beloved community. Here I go again. What is beloved community? Beloved community are words that we use frequently these days in the UU world, and I don't think that we always think about what they mean, and we're learning. Here's some definitions that I found, some of them written by Martin Luther King himself, some found on the MLK website, and another on a college website describing their work to create beloved community. In 1966, Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls, as well as a quantitative change in our lives." Everything changes. Another says, "A society where caring and compassion drive political policies that support the worldwide elimination of poverty, hunger, and all forms of bigotry and violence." Martin Luther King says about community, "The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community. The aftermath of nonviolence is redemption. The aftermath of nonviolence is reconciliation." The college website I mentioned, Works to Create Beloved Community, says this. For Dr. King, the beloved community is a story about who we are, how we are made, and where together we are destined to go. This vision tells a story about justice and equality, goodwill and reconciliation, and about the ways in which love can transform individuals and communities, where both justice and love mutually uplift one another and become inseparable. And this is a definition from the website, The Eighth Principle of Unitarian Universalism. Beloved community happens when people of diverse racial, ethnic, educational, class, gender, abilities, sexual orientation, backgrounds, and identities come together in an interdependent relationship of love, mutual respect, and care that seeks to realize justice within the broader world. So how do we, as Unitarian Universalists, embody beloved community? Let's think again about what beloved community means. Beloved community happens when people of diverse racial, ethnic, educational, class, gender, abilities, sexual orientation, backgrounds, and identities come together in an interdependent relationship of love, mutual respect, and care that seeks to realize justice within the community and in the broader world. Our UU faith calls us to do this work in all the ways that we exist. We are called to disrupt our system of white supremacy culture, to lift up the voices of marginalized peoples and cultures, to open, to be inclusive, to recognize the benefits of diversity. These words aren't easy. The language of beloved community isn't made for comfort. You will find discomfort as you engage deeply in the work of disrupting what you know. Hold that tension. Stay with what is uncomfortable. Learn from those feelings. We all learn differently, and I appreciate being allowed to absorb new concepts in ways that are useful and helpful to me. I'm an experiential learner, and I need to do the intrapersonal work to hold a concept, to feel the meaning of pain or joy with every step I take. That's me. Other people grasp ideas quickly and can see or understand how a thing works almost instantly. And in between those methods are hundreds of other learning experiences. And that's what's important, that we learn. All of our experiences are valid, and all the ways we learn are valid and good. Last summer, the delegates at GA voted to change Article 2 of the UUA bylaws. Where we once had 7 principles, which, by the way, I love, we now have a set of values that guide us. I wasn't in favor of this change, and here it is anyway. Our values, though new in this presentation, are not new to us at all. Our values are words that we use all the time in this faith tradition, common words that we now pay attention to differently, and that trouble us in their use. Love. Love at the center. That gave me the hardest time. Please don't tell me what to love, or who to love, or how to act. That's me.
We should be good.
Oh, good. I'm sorry for breaking everything.
No, you broke nothing.
Well, a little excitement. Don't tell me what to do. Until the surprising realization in my own intrapersonal work to know beloved community, that love is the answer to all of the questions, the answer to all of my discomfort, and to the reason I work to dismantle systems of oppression. As surprised as anybody. Why do I care about the unhoused people? Love. They're people we love. Why do I care about racial injustice? Love. Why would I want to dehumanize you? Love. Why do I care about ableism? Love. We're not all the same. Martin Luther King asks us to be of service, to love our humanity, to love our brothers and sisters simply because they exist. Dr. Cornel West says that love is what justice looks like in public. Our UU faith tradition asks us to practice, among other values, justice based in love, and that is transformative. I want to lift up all the work being carried out here at First Parish. I want to name what love looks like at this church. You have the Gordon Gibb Community Lunch. You feed the hungry. You care for the unhoused. You get out the vote. Hell, you run for public office. I don't know how better all of these actions could change the world to make the world a better place. You're a good trouble congregation, and that's amazing. Martin Luther King asks us to be of service in love to the world, to create a better world. Let's continue practicing our values. Ashe. Thank you. Amen. First. I'm going to change things up just a bit. We're going to extinguish the chalice after we do the benedictions to close the service. Oh, people can sit. I'm sorry. I'm using these as closing words, and they're from my friend Emily Richards. Our work has just begun. Please take a moment to become present, to pause, and to notice how you are in this moment. Our work here this morning is at an end, and our work has just begun. The work of holding one another and this community in love. The work of trusting that we are on the right path. The work of believing that what connects us is stronger than what separates us. The work of engaging in that which makes us whole. the work of deeper understanding and commitment, the work of letting go of that which does not serve us, the work of radical inclusion, the work of collective liberation, the work of this beloved community, a beloved community of which all of us are part, a place where we are welcomed, respected, valued, cherished, a place where we belong. Go in peace. Amen, and blessed be.
Before you go off, we're going to extinguish the chalice with our extinguishing the chalice words.
Please. Rise if you'd like, and say these words with us, with me, with our community. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in love.